It's one of those interesting paradoxes that now we're an urban country. Most of us live in a city. And this is new. In history, humans have not lived in cities predominantly. And so we've been separated from the trees. So now, where do most people have their contact with the natural environment? Is in the city. It's not out in the wilderness, it's in their local park or in their yard or in the street outside their home. They can help reintroduce some of the contact with the natural environments that has been lost by an urbanising society. And a lot of the work I do is quantifying the benefits of urban trees. The first study I did looked at the effect of trees on house price, showed that trees outside people's houses on average would add $7,000 the price of a house. And I think people intuitively understand that the natural environment can make a house more appealing. So I did a study here in Portland showing that in some cases trees can reduce crime, and most recently looking at the effect of trees on birth outcomes, specifically that women who had more trees within 50 metres of their home were less likely to have an underweight child. For some people it's difficult to realise how trees could do this, but for example in the birth outcome case, there's been past research has shown the natural environment can reduce stress, so things like blood pressure or cortisol level, and there's also been research that's shown that stress can affect birth outcomes. So when you start to think of it in those terms, it makes sense that there should be a direct link, possibly could be a direct link between trees and birth outcomes. So there was a lot, months and months, probably years in total of data collection to go into these studies. Friends of Trees is a non-profit here in town, and I've been working with them and also with the city of Portland.
We would love that Geoffrey's here in Portland. It's great to be able to talk to a homeowner and say the U.S. Forest Service did a study and found that, if we plant this tree, your property value is going to go up by $7,000. Oh, and by the way, this study was done here in Portland on, in your neighborhood. So a lot of this stuff is just Geoffrey's statistics with our graphics. It's an opportunity for people to think about trees again, to think about, oh, that could add to my property value, and I'll put that away, and oh, that could lower my crime rate, and I'll put that away, and then something, and a Friends of Trees sign shows up in the neighborhood, and they piece that all together, and they say, okay, I'm gonna do that now. If we didn't have the media reporting on that data, they might not be prepared to plant a tree once someone like Friends of Trees gets there to say, hey, is today the day you wanna plant a tree? Every neighborhood has one Saturday where all the neighbors come together and plant the trees as a team. Around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, usually we start to roll up. The staff arrives and some of the first volunteers arrive, and they unpack the big box trucks, all the tools, all the trees come out and get sorted into different pickup trucks. And we have crew leaders who are Friends of Trees trained volunteers. They come and they train the homeowners how to plant trees. And you've got these 10 homeowners, and they live like 4 or 5 houses from each other, and they don't know each other. But we take them out during the winter in Portland when it's probably raining, and they get muddy, dirty, and they really bond. And that's what's really kind of cool about that community aspect.
1, 2, 3.
Trees!
We have a saying, right tree, right place. And that pretty much says if you've got a small amount of space, plant a tree that's a small tree. And if you've got a big amount of space, plant a big tree. And if you have power lines, or very specific power lines, plant a short tree. But the question is, what's the more important infrastructure? The amazing tree or the sidewalk?
I'm not really in the should business, what people should or shouldn't do. I'm not an advocate. That's a really important distinction for a scientist. But I'm saying from my research, this is what I believe will happen if you were to plant more trees. Currently, the tree cover is about 26% if you include Forest Park, and the city has a goal to increase that to 33%, which I think I calculated involved planting over 400,000 trees. I think it will be a challenge, and I think if you talk to people in the city, it will be a challenge too, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.